Hello. I know I'm crazy with Naja Hall audience. So you guys know that I've been talking about how I joined TikTok. And I did not know that it was like the land of milk and honey when it came to making new connections and meeting these genuinely awesome people that have the same mission that I do. So today we actually have a guest that I met on TikTok. And I was like, yo, who is this dude? He know about co-parenting. Like he looks too cool to be in this genre. But today we're talking to Anthony Johnson. Anthony is a co-parenting coach and a leadership consultant. Right after this dance break, I'm going to tell you all about Mr. Anthony Johnson.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.
Co-parenting coach and leadership consultant Anthony Johnson is a proud native of Buffalo, New York. What up, New York? He obtained his Bachelor of Arts degree in Multidisciplinary Studies from West Virginia University. His minor is in Entrepreneurship and Leadership Studies. It makes him a strong advocate for personal growth and leadership development. 18 years of military service. Anthony, you do not look like you are old enough to have been in the military for 18 years. But after 18 years of military service, it provided Anthony with the opportunity to train and mentor hundreds of our military service members. As the current owner of Continuous Journey LLC, Anthony strives to change the lives as a co-parenting coach and leadership consultant. That's a great mix, by the way, Anthony. He recently served as a sexual assault response coordinator for the Air National Guard, where he worked to change the culture surrounding sexual misconduct. He also assumes an active role within the community. He accomplishes this by sitting on the board of directors for the Family Resource Network and Advisory Council for Support Pay. He actively speaks in local schools, mentors, and coaches youth football. Jeez, you are busy, Anthony.
Yeah.
Anthony believes the success of the future lies within the next generation, and it's our job as parents and members of the community to guide them. Everybody, let's give Anthony, and I know I'm crazy, round of applause. Woo! So Anthony, welcome. Welcome today. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's just a pleasure to be on. And I'm lucky. I'm glad we made this connection on TikTok. Like you said, it's such a good place to just make some genuine connections.
I didn't know that it was like all this. My social media manager forced me to get on TikTok because I was like, dude, another social media network, really? But I'll
Right.
say this, since I guess I would have never had a way. You have a big Instagram and Facebook presence as well, but TikTok it felt more genuine, and I love what you talk about too.
And if it's super genuine. I feel like I made my most genuine connections on TikTok. And I'm not like a
Yeah.
social media guy, really. Like I'm an introvert. Actually,
Well,
I do a
your
lot of
numbers are big. I don't know, Anthony. Your numbers
well,
say different.
well, I mean, it's slowly growing, like my TikTok especially, but like I think there's so many people who care about the topic of co-parenting, right? There's a lot of people who are struggling right now trying to maintain a positive co-parenting relationship. What's more important than your children, right? So that's the thing people care about most, and it's really, really hurting people right now.
Heck yeah. So I have a question though. How are you meshing your co-parenting expertise with your leadership consulting? Like, do the two kind of mush and mend into one another? Can you play off one of the other?
Absolutely, 100%.
How?
Because I feel like being a father is my biggest leadership role, right?
Mm,
So it just organically ties in. Whenever I go and do a presentation or a workshop about leadership, I always include anecdotes and little stories from me being a father, right? And
mm,
how I manage my children and how I parent my children, how I lead them. So being a parent, a mother, a father is the ultimate leadership role. I feel like it
yeah,
fits in perfectly. It's almost easy to
yeah,
mesh it in together.
that's true. Being a leader has so many moving parts. I'm reading this book right now. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. I highly recommend it if you are
Okay.
ready to be triggered for any human being out there. I don't care where you're from or how old you are. One of the things that he stresses in the book, he's like, we don't own our children.
Mm,
And one of the things that I see with when we have co-parenting conflict, which is what I specialize in, and
mm.
is also what you teach and how to resolve it, I see people that really think that they own these little beings by means of control. How would you speak to that statement? We don't own our kids.
We don't. I would first say I agree with that, right? Like, and I've seen a quote. I haven't read that book, but I'm definitely going to check it out. A quote that says, right, our kids don't come from us, they come through us. Right.
Yes.
And like, it is not my job. And I struggled with this, because my son so I have two children. My son is 10 and my daughter just turned 9. They're 16 months apart. And my daughter is a lot like me. All right. Very calm, just chill, relax. We enjoy the same things. My son, polar opposite. He's just like, he's wild, he's emotional, he's impulsive, everything.
Like me.
Like all the things that
me and him will get along.
Right. All the things that I didn't identify with, personally. Right. And I found myself like trying to, in certain instances, trying to make him more like me because it made me more comfortable. Right.
It's easier too.
And it was more manageable for me. Right. And then as my evolution as a parent and growing, right, I had to see like, oh, that is not, what am I doing here? Like, I need to cultivate who he is, right? And let him be who he is and showing that he's loved and accepted no matter who he is. I don't need him to be like me. I don't want him to be like me, right? Because all he's going to do is feel like he's not loved for who he is. So no, he does not belong to me. I do not get to dictate who he becomes, right? I get to guide, my job is to guide him on this journey of whoever he wants to be, right? So no, he does not belong to me at all. He belongs
I don't get to dictate who he becomes. So that kind of, let's segue into my next question. When we think of co-parenting, especially conflict, there is dictatorship that happens. It's one parent thinking that their opinion or their perspective is more important or holds more weight than the other parent. Anthony, how the heck, if you not saying you, but if a person that's listening to this has a co-parent that does think that they are the more important parent, so that means they are trying to dictate many things, including the other parent's relationship with the child and who the child is going to become. How are you supposed to get through to a counter parent? What are you supposed to say to them? What do you do? He had to sigh. I had to sigh too.
Because this is so situational, and let's talk about if we're dealing with a generally healthy individual, right? Let's start there. Like, if we're not dealing with somebody who is like proven to be like narcissists, right? So because sometimes there's no reasoning with these people, right? But if you have somebody who is a reasonable person normally, you have to let go, right? One of the first things you have to do is you gotta let go.
You gotta let go. And that's a lot of internal work. So you're just making us do internal work.
You gotta, and that's where you go. You have to do the internal work. All right. So if you are a parent, no matter who, if you're not a parent, you gotta do the internal work. So one of my jobs as a parent is to make sure, like, we all have been through things as kids growing up. Like, I've been through traumatic experience. I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I've seen some traumatic stuff. I've been through a lot. So one of my jobs as a father is to not let my mess. Can we cuss on this podcast?
Because it's called I Know I'm Crazy, so you can say whatever you want to.
All right, so I just want to be mindful of your.
Go on and cuss. Say
right, so cuss. Look, my job as a father is not to let my shit spill over onto my kids. Right, so that means whatever shit that I had to deal with growing up and unresolved trauma, right? I got to deal with that so it doesn't spill over onto my kids. Oh. So first of all, if you know,
but that means you are a healthy, centered person then.
And working at it every day, right? So your job is to deal with that, heal that trauma, whatever you got going on. If you know you're a control freak, go to therapy and figure out how you can work that out, right? Because one of the things that's so subjective when it comes to co-parenting is what's best for the child, right? So subjective, it could be very subjective in a lot of cases, right? So even something like bedtime. Right. Like if I say we need to put the kids to bed at 9:30 and you put them to bed at 10, right? And there's parents who believe, like, you know what, if you can't get them on a proper schedule, then maybe they need to be at my house more often because of the half hour, because I think 9:30 is best and you think 10 is okay, 10:15. Right.
Absolutely.
So though, if you're gonna keep trying to fight those little battles, you're gonna lose. You're gonna make co-parenting very difficult. Some things you gotta let go. Right.
If you are a normal, balanced person, so what you're saying, and we're talking to balanced people here, we're going to talk to the imbalanced people, because a lot of y'all are imbalanced that listen to this podcast too. Y'all know it because I get your emails and your DMs. But if you're a person that's able to center themselves, and you see that a lot of the conflict is coming because you disagree with how the other person runs their home, and it's not necessarily harming your child, meaning your child is not going to be traumatized by this extra hour or 2 hours difference in your home and your co-parent's home, then you need to find a resource so that you can deal with it better, right? What are, aside from therapy, like what are some resources where a person that's balanced, where can we go to be like, yo, I know I'm tripping, besides this podcast and besides Anthony's TikTok?
Besides this podcast and besides my TikTok. So there are, one of the things that I encourage people to do is join, like, you can join Facebook groups, right?
Because it's
like,
free.
There's a lot of free Facebook groups for motherhood, for fatherhood. There's I do a show every Tuesday evening with the Father's Rights Movement. I have a Facebook group for co-parenting fathers. All right. And get some input from other people who are experiencing the same thing that you are. Right. Because there is a community, there's a whole community of people who are going through this. You are not the only one. And I feel like that is the most simple and free and basic resource that you can find, is like a Facebook group where you can just put your story out there, like, hey, can I get it? Hey, who's going through this? Because I promise you, if you're going through something, somebody is definitely willing to comment on it and give you some input. Right. And if you're fairly healthy, so, and like you said, you mentioned healthy people, because I think that's important. If you're a fairly healthy person and you have some level of emotional intelligence, you're able to discern, like, you're able to take comments and input and things like that and be able to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, right? And what makes sense and what doesn't. And you also have to have your people in your life, right? Like, I think that you don't have to go to me or you as a coach. Like, you can go to anybody who's a coach. Get a coach.
Yes, please. You don't have to come to us, but therapy is beautiful. Coaches are amazing, but yeah, I'm kind of biased. Like, get a coach.
I'm a little biased too. I think therapy is great. I think it's awesome.
Yes.
I think what I do as a coach is it gives me a little bit more freedom, a little bit more leeway, right? To I'm just, as a coach, I'm just as invested in this as you are. Right, like in your mission and in your success of being a good co-parent, the best version of yourself, I'm just as committed. Right, so like, I'm not texting my therapist at like 6 p.m. Right, some of my clients are some of my clients, I'm available to some of my clients at 6 p.m. outside is, hey, look, can we hop on the phone real quick? Like, so I do that for my clients. Right, so yeah, like,
Anthony, I know a lot of therapists. There's actually a therapist that works at my coaching agency. But I know a lot of therapists that are opting for coaching because of the flexibility. Because when I was in therapy, it's cool if I'm gonna meet you every Wednesday at 1 p.m. But then what happens when life smacks me in the face on Saturday or Monday? Just having, like, I do the same thing with my clients. Like, you have access to me because I care. Once I stop caring, that's when I'll quit. But I really give it. I've gone to court with my clients. I've typed emails for them religiously, so I see what you mean. And I wasn't even going to ask you this, but now since you brought it up, I want to know. So, like, what is your coaching process? When you get somebody to come in, they reach you from one of your channels, do you assess to see, can you work? Is this person coachable, and are you the right person for them? How does it go? What's your process?
So, yeah, I definitely have to assess, right, if we're right for each other, because some people are coming for something that I cannot give them. Right. So, and I'm not gonna bullshit you, right? So if you come into me, like I just had a consultation last week, and it was a woman who's like, what can I do? Basically, what can I do to convince the other person, right, that they need to kind of get on board with what I want to do. Right. Like, and I'm like, well, you can't really, I don't know if I can help you convince somebody to do what you want. Right. What I can do is we can, I can give me your situation. Let me tell me what's going on. Everything about, what you want to accomplish, and let's see if that's doable. Because like, if your job is to just like get the other person on board with what you're doing, then I can't help you do that.
Okay. So I mean, yeah, not everybody needs. There's a coach out there that would definitely take that person's money and give them the runaround to make them think that they can control another human being. There's a coach out there that would
there
take
is a coach out there, and
Mhm.
there's another. She was also like, okay, well, we might have to go to court, and I don't want to go to court, and
Okay.
and I'm telling she's like, well, what can I do to avoid court? And I'm like, finding some more details about her situation. I'm like, I can help you figure out how to make sure you're managing the conversation that you're having and everything that's going on right now, managing it the best way possible. But I cannot assure you that you're going to be able to avoid court.
Are you able, or have you ever had situations where you have a client and they're like, listen, can you just talk to my co-parent or that other party for me? Have you done that?
Absolutely. I have not. You know what? There's been not yet, which is because usually when somebody contacts me, the person who contacts me is a person who wants to they're willing to work. They're usually.
Yeah, they're flexible. They, at this point, they don't want to fight anymore, but they maybe don't know the process by which to find peace, right?
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I came close once, but it wasn't like usually the other person does not want to talk to me. All right. So they
especially if you're from the person that they don't like, they're like, oh, I trust you. I'm talking to you.
Right. So and what I tell people is like, I'm willing to do whatever, right, is best for the situation. If they want to have a conversation with me, I will gladly have a conversation with the other party. If at some point we're going through this coaching process and they want to get on board, let's bring them on board.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do the work for you. All right. And I'm not going to do it in a way that you want me to do it. Because I had a client that said, hey, can we get him on the call? And we want like the first coaching call. I want to get him on the first coaching call. And I said, well,
does he want to be on the call?
Right. Does he want to be on the call?
Does he know who you are? Yeah.
And I'm not willing to, I would prefer in that situation to talk to you both separately so I can hear each side of the story separately and not you both be on the phone and like it become like this. I'm a mediator in this situation in the first call. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna do it in the best way possible.
So you have to make sure that person is willing to even get on the phone with you, which is hard.
Does your partner share kids with a loony? Are your stepkids driving you up a wall? Is your partner failing miserably at setting boundaries? Well, VIP Stepmom is where you need to be. We're an exclusive private community just for stepmoms, and we'd love for you to join our tribe. Each month, our members enjoy private conversations, podcasts, expert workshops, a subscription to Stepmom Magazine, and monthly live Zoom meetings. If you're ready to join a diverse community that is committed to making sure you live your best life, visit VIP Stepmom today. We'll save a seat for you.
VIP Stepmoms, that's you and me.
Because as you know, right, a big part of coaching is we have to develop some trust here, right? And
absolutely.
And even though you're my client, like I want the best for the situation. So if the other party's involved, they need to trust me as well. That I'm looking out for I'm a neutral party in this. I'm not just on this. I'm not this person's lawyer who's trying to get the best.
And that is hard. That's so difficult. Because they come to you, if they are willing, thing that I find, if they are willing to talk to the coach, then the other person has paid, we're hired by someone that they are in conflict with. Right. So it automatically looks like you're representing that other person. And it is kind of difficult to get them to believe that you're a neutral party when they didn't find you and they're not financing the thing. So that's the hard part. I've had, I've had it happen more than a few times when like, Naja, I really want this person. Can you help us? And I'm like, all right, bro, let me just go ahead and do it. I've had some pretty good experiences and I've been cussed out. Not all the way. Cause y'all know I'll hang up so fast. I'll be like, girl, you know what? No, you're not ready. Or I understand why you're upset. Clearly I'm not the person. This is the incorrect way. And then I've had some instances where I'm like, I've been able to tell my client, you are literally dealing. And because I do have a therapist, like there's a licensed therapist that's able to diagnose, because I needed that, because coaches, I'm not the type of coach that is licensed to diagnose. I just own like all the DSMs and I've read every fucking oops. Why did I say oops on my own podcast? Like I'm not gonna edit that out. Like I haven't read everything that you guys have on what makes a person a borderline or a narcissist. But I've been able to tell people like, listen, baby Bob, this person that you sent me to reach out to, they definitely talk to me. However, they are keenly disordered. And if I was a betting woman, I would say they are a narcissist, or I'd say they BPD. However, I am not licensed to say that to you, but just understand if I couldn't get through to them, like, you guys are going to have your day in court, so I have had that experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes people just need to know, listen, it's not you. You are not the crazy one. You have a co-parent that is gaslighting you and will do everything in their power to hurt you, even if that means harming the child. So yeah.
So I have a question for you. Am I allowed to ask
Oh
questions?
yeah,
I know
you
this is
can
your podcast.
This
Let
is
me
a
ask some questions.
conversation. Of
No, all
course
right,
you
well,
can.
shit, then let's do it.
You can ask me anything you want.
It's about to be my podcast. I'm gonna ask some questions. Look, when you so okay, how do you balance, right? How do you find the balance when it comes to, right? So there's clearly a lot of people who are dealing with other party who's a narcissist, right? I know you just mentioned, right? You're not the crazy one, right? But there are some people who are dealing with narcissism who also has they got their own stuff too. They got a little bit of crazy in them too, right? So how do you find that balance with your clients to be like, okay, this person is crazy. On the other side, they got some stuff they need to deal with, but okay, honey, let me tell you what you got some stuff you need to work on too.
That's why I call this podcast I Know I'm Crazy, because I too know, I realize I am such an imperfect woman. I've had some very skewed perspectives. I've had to ask for forgiveness more times than I can count. I give love away freely, but I also know none of us made it out of childhood okay. We all walked away with something.
Right.
For some of us, that's abandonment issues. For some of us, we were treated poorly, so we had to develop the coping mechanisms, which gives us the traits of a narcissist. Meaning I've been so hurt that I'm not listening to other people and I always know I'm right, and it makes you appear to be a narcissist. When a person comes to me though for coaching, that means they found trust in my voice. They deem me, and I'm using air quotes for those of you that are listening, they deem me as somewhat an authority and the person that's going to help them solve the problem. Right. I also say the people that come to me, Anthony, it's not a specific race, age, anything. They are just they're not very simple-minded bitches and dudes. There's some very complex thinkers. So if I say, hey, let's kind of dial it back, because I see you have a pattern of handling this type of conflict by lashing out. Let's talk about this pattern of lashing out. Why do you do that? And then they'll literally get into a story that more than likely goes back to childhood or some sort of derogatory experience that they've had that makes them react this way. And I'll say, see, you're acting from a place of trauma, right? And I'll say to some people, they would give this type of trauma that you have a name. I do have some clients that I have said, sweetheart, I've studied borderline personality, in and out, both personally and professionally. You need to go speak to a therapist, because I think you might need to get a diagnosis. I'm gonna tell you this, Anthony, I've not been wrong one time. And just depend. Like some people would say borderline and these diagnoses don't mean a thing anymore. And guys, they might be proven that they're trash, because we do know when they made up these different diagnoses, the test subjects were white males, affluent white males. So people like me and you and women were not included when they were naming these diagnoses. So, I mean, they could be wrong. They could be off, totally off base. So when I have a client come in, I'm like, they already know that they trust me. And I've, like you said, you and I, Anthony, we build rapport with our client. Right. And I say, okay, so straight up, let me tell you, are you ready for this? And I always give it to them. Grandma said, you give 2 doses of sweet with the bitter. So when she would make me have Robitussin, she would like give me a little bit of honey with it. And so I'll give them 2 things that I love about them. And I'll say, this is something that I've noticed though. I have noticed that you contribute to the conflict by doing this. And by that point, they trust me enough. I've buttered them up enough. So they'll listen. Yeah. They'll listen. And if they fight me back, they might get mad for 20 minutes, but I'm like, you paying me and I'm invested in this. So we're going to keep talking through this. That's it. That's what I do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And they get to witness live and in person what healthy conversation looks like,
Yes.
and like what healthy disagreement looks like, all
It
those
doesn't
things.
always feel good.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
and I feel like it speaks so much to what we've been talking about, and this was something I wanted to mention earlier when it comes to people trying to control their kids and like saying like, okay, my kids belong to me. And like when you give up control, it's the it's less likely that your kids are going to have the same trauma that you had, right? Because I feel like our parents were trying to control us out of fear, right? Because they didn't
Yes.
know no better, like out of fear
Yes.
of how we was going to turn out, what was going to happen to us. And like my job as a parent is to let my kids, especially if I'm in a healthy place, I'm it's good if my kids are going through stuff. It's good if they experiencing like hardships in life, because now they got me to
You
guide
are
them
their
through it,
guide. Yes.
right?
You
They
you
got
know,
me now.
yes. I was at the playground the other day, with one of my girlfriends and her two kids. And these two little girls, they love climbing the monkey bars. Like they'll go up 20 feet and they don't care that there's concrete underneath, just waiting to crack their heads.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a helicopter parent person,
Mhm.
like friend, like whatever, auntie. And so I'm seeing them and I was like, girl, she was like, Naja, it's not safe for them. I've told them so many times. And she did tell them to come down to a safe place to where if they would have fallen from 6 feet, they're
Mhm.
not going to crack anything.
Yeah.
But she was like, I gotta let them fall. She was
Mhm.
like, the world is waiting for them. And while they're in my care, if they fall here, I can show them how to bounce back and develop resilience.
Mhm.
She was
Uh-huh.
like, it's so hard for me to not butt in, but they have to have their experiences.
They have to.
So here's a question I have for you, because I see a lot of mothers, like you said, go join the groups so you can get perspectives. What I did when I first started having a blended family conflict, I was like, I want to see the perspective of the person's group, rather, not that particular person. But I was like, let me just go somewhere where women might have her same perspective. They see themselves as struggling single mothers.
Yeah.
And so I started to join the groups just to see like what their perspectives were, like how do they see the world, so that I could maybe understand. So one thing that helped me to do was to take myself out of it and be like, Naja, you are not centered in this person's experience. You
Mhm.
don't have a place here. But then that's my question for you is, how do you, and I'm gonna next, of course, I'm gonna ask you about your situation, but
Yeah.
how do you make it so that you are able to see the other person's experience without harming yourself?
Well, t- so you say to see the other person's experience without harming
Yeah, like
yourself.
how do you get their
Elaborate on
perspective?
it.
Your co-parent or someone that you are helping as far as being a coach. You want to show them that, listen, you aren't really centered in other people's experiences. Like me, Naja over here, I'm not centering Anthony's experience, Anthony's day. But I want to understand it.
Mhm.
So then how do you, and let's just speak of co-parents here.
Yeah.
How do you have and develop, better question, how do you develop empathy and compassion for a co-parent that gives you a hard time?
Well, if you can, right? So like I have to replace, like some of us know that we are, like when it comes to being a parent, especially with co-parents, we can be really judgmental, right? I think a lot
Yeah.
of people know that when they can be judgmental. And it's like whenever I do a workshop, I'm talking to people like you have to be able to replace judgment with curiosity and compassion. Like
Okay.
whenever,
Curiosity and compassion. Okay.
right? Because you we are a sum total of our experiences. You got to this perspective in this point in your life based on your experiences. So I need to learn. I need to come from a place of learning. I need to seek to understand before I seek to be understood. Right. Always.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about curiosity and compassion. So I did one of my workshops that I do at a university is on crucial conversations, right, in a diverse group. Um, so I did a crucial conversations on the Air Force Base that I used to work on, predominantly white male pilots, right? And we talked about race. It was shortly after the George Floyd thing happened. We
Mhm.
talked about race. We talked about white privilege. We talked about all these things. I'm the only Black person in the room. I'm leading this
Mhm.
discussion, and everybody was kind of like, I had a white counterpart, white male, who started off the conversation. Like we were co-leading it, and he was trying to tell everybody in the room why they should be listening and to what Black people have to say and why they need to understand like Black Lives Matter and why, and like they were very like, okay, but
It's not a
until
good, and that's not a good way to get people to care about your plight. Tell them
it's
why.
not,
Nobody want
it's
to hear that
not
shit.
nobody.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what got them to open up
What's
was
that?
when I became curious about their experience. Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how many people, I'm asking a room full of predominantly white male or some white female, white women in there as well. Raise your hand if you've been called racist and you felt like it was totally like out of pocket. Like who's been called racist in this room and like what?
Everybody probably raise their
Almost
hand.
75% of
Yeah.
the room raise their hand.
Yeah.
Like who's been called racist? Like you're like, no,
Mhm.
I've been called racist. Like I'm not racist.
And they're like, dude, I'm not racist. I got Black friends. I donated to
Right?
NAACP. Right.
Tell
Right.
me about that. Tell me about that. All right. Tell me what that felt like. All right. Tell me about your experience being called racist and
Yeah.
you're not a racist. Like, and then they all got to share their experience and like, okay, well, now let me tell you. So now it's a conversation, it's a dialogue. I'm trying to understand this person. I'm coming from a place of understanding and not judgment, just curiosity.
Yes. Because I feel like when you call somebody racist, number one, now I got to defend myself.
Mhm.
Now I have to defend my stance and tell you why I am not. So I'm not in a place to hear and receive anything. Definitely not in a place to learn, because now I'm defending myself to be like, I'm
Mhm.
not a freaking racist.
Right.
So like you're saying, you opened up dialogue. So going back to the question, sounds like a lot of us need to open up some internal dialogue with ourselves too.
Some internal dialogue, and also understanding that this is not me versus you. This is not a battle of who's the best parent. This is us.
God.
This is us versus any issue that arises. So when you said you was gonna ask me about my situation when we first split, this was years ago, right? My kids were, I would go into her apartment and like I'll be looking at like the dishes piled up, and I'm like, you need to like, come on, you need to clean up in here. Like, what is going on?
Oh,
Like,
no, you did not. I know you didn't.
Acting a damn fool, right?
Oh,
Like,
you gonna get the hell up out of here.
Right,
Or
so
you gonna wash them.
Like, come on, like we need to like, come on, can we get clean in here? Like, it's like
Oh
that's
my
what
God,
happens. Right, like this, but this was me, right? I'm not gonna come here and paint this picture. I've been the best co-parent ever since the beginning of time, right? Like I was on some shit too.
You was on some bullshit.
I was on some bullshit, right? Instead of being like, yo, this is the mother of my children and my kids live here. This is a stressful time for both of us. When I come in here, how about I come in and like I do the dishes, right? Like how about I come in and I help clean up. And because it's
let me
not
be the
versus you.
solution instead of bringing up problems. Let me just get to work. I love action.
And
do something.
And let me be vulnerable as well when it comes to like, because right when you're doing your own internal work, like instead of like me and her would be sitting at a baseball game or something, one of my son's baseball games, and let me be open about what I need to improve. Because and I started having those conversations with her instead of never pointing the finger. Like I stopped pointing the finger at all. Like this is not about what you need to do like better and like that I'm perfect. Because here's what I want to do. You know what? I've been wanting to make sure I feed the kids like more healthy meals. I noticed we've been going out to eat too much fast food or whatever after the games or after practices. I want to make sure I'm keeping up with their laundry and things like that. Those are some things I plan on working on. I would have these conversations with my kid's mother, like while we sitting at a baseball game, or football practice, and only.
Wow, that sounds like so healthy. Damn.
Like it wasn't always that way though, right? Like exactly. It's I think it's healthy, right? Because it's us versus a problem. Like let's work together. Because
let me learn this. You gotta repeat that. It's us versus what?
It's us versus the problem, right? Or us versus the situation, or the whatever it is. It's us versus it. Anything that's combating, like coming at our children or our relationship. It's us versus that, because we always gonna be a team, no matter what.
Now, you are speaking to two centered, balanced people that realize that they have a shared goal. They are not enemies. They are not opposing members of opposite teams. You literally have the same goal, which is to raise two healthy, productive members of society. So then what made you start your mission? What made you start speaking to co-parents? I want to know kind of the backstory, because everybody knows my backstory. Everybody knows my backstory was baby drama, fighting, ratchet. It was
I need
hardships
to
that
hear
kind
more
of
about
led me
that.
to the yeah. It was hardships that led me to mine. But then I want to know like what started your mission, your passion.
Like, well, they say, when you can find something that you love to do and get paid for it, like that's the sweet spot, right? That's where you want to be.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I've always been most passionate about being a father, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have, my father wasn't around. And so
Okay.
when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to have kids because I wanted to show them what a father was supposed to be.
Mm.
And
I
so,
hear a lot of people, men and women, that grew up without one of their parents say the very same thing. It's like, and you guys become exemplary mothers and fathers because you become that which you did not have.
right.
I guess as a way to reparent yourself too. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. You're good. And in a way, it's like if you ever heard that quote, like you ask two sons, like two people who are brothers, and you ask one's an alcoholic and one's not, right? Like you ask one, like, hey, why you drink so much? And I said my dad was an alcoholic. And you ask the other one, how come you never drink? Because my dad was an alcoholic,
Yes.
right? It's like
Yes.
it can go either way, right?
Yeah.
And I started doing leadership consulting, right? Like military background. I've always been in leadership roles, captains of my sports teams and things like that. Always been in leadership roles. And so that was my thing. I'm like, man, I love leadership. But like I said, whenever I would
What's
talk
your
about it,
sign? I always ask people. I don't believe in astrological stuff.
Scorpio.
You're a what?
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Okay, I don't know too much about Scorpios. So I'm
Okay.
like, that's fire, right?
I mean, I'm not a big on astrology either.
No,
Like
I'm not
I guess,
either. We had an astrologist on the podcast not too long ago, and it was so good. I was like, oh, I need to like get more into this. But now I'm just in such a habit of asking people their signs, but I don't know
okay.
too much about it anyway. So sorry.
You
Okay,
know
go
about your
ahead.
sign though?
I mean, I know about mine because I Google mine. I know about mine and my husband's and like people that get on my nerves, but I don't know any Scorpios like that. I don't know
Okay.
any Scorpios like that. But I'm sure
That's
you
fine.
guys out there listening do. So if y'all get to this point, DM me and send me some stuff about Scorpio so I can know.
Yeah, please let me know. Let me know what they say, and let me know if
Yeah.
whatever vibe they get from me. Let me know if it's accurate. I want to
Yeah.
know.
See if it's the stuff that we've all Googled. So then you were saying that you were in the leadership classes and you were taking on all these leadership. So you're a natural leader anyway.
Yeah, I felt like I was a natural leader, and so right as I said earlier, parenting being my most important leadership role, and I see a lot of people struggling with this. Man, and in my presentations and stuff, I'm always talking about fatherhood and how in regards to leadership. So let me do something that I love and that I'm passionate about, and help other fathers, other mothers who are going through these situations. Because like you read in my bio, like the kid, they're our future. They're the key to the future. They're our future politicians, our future leaders, and so we gotta mold them. Do our best to guide them in the right direction. What's more important?
Have you ever had your co-parent on your TikTok or your Tuesday talks?
No, I haven't. That's an interesting question, and I think I may keep that separate. I don't know. I may or may not. We'll see. Maybe in the future, but I haven't yet. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I thought about I took a little break from actually social media for a minute, and I'm about to get back on it this week because I'm like I said, I'm an introvert, and being on social media a lot, it drains me. Even after I do a presentation, like I'm drained afterwards. I need to go. Everybody want to go hang out. I'm like, no, I'm gonna go back to my hotel.
Yeah. You got to recharge and reboot. Yeah. I understand.
And they don't know this, but I took a picture. So my fiance and my kid's mom, we were at a soccer game yesterday, and I took it. They were sitting next to each other and they were talking, and she had her new baby right there, and my fiance had her 3-year-old there, and I took a picture of them, and I was gonna post like something about it on my TikTok about like co-parenting, like how this is my past and this is my future, like, but they're here,
You better not call that woman your past, but she can be like, I got your kids.
I wasn't gonna say Pat. I was actually thinking it's funny you say that because I'm like, I can't use that word. When I said that,
no,
I
you
was saying that to myself. I was like, I gotta.
At least you have the introspection to be like, nah, let me not, because I understand what you're trying to say, but you're like, nah. But that's like an exemplary example of a beautiful blended family. And some sort of way you have a healthy co-parent and you have a healthy fiance, and these two women understand you being the man in the middle. Which we talk a whole lot about, because men in the middles, they really be bullshitting and dropping the ball sometimes. and
They
making
be
it
on some,
hard for
I mean,
everybody.
they do be on some shit. Like, ain't,
Oh my God, we're gonna talk about that next though.
yeah.
So, but I think that's a beautiful example of just showing like the flow that's happening in your life because you're about to become a stepdad.
Mhm.
You are a stepdad, and then your children have a step parent and a new sibling. And if you and your fiance decide to grow your family, like it's just there's a lot of moving parts that are happening
It
with
is a
the
lot of
kids at the
moving parts.
center, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How do you feel about becoming a stepdad or being a stepdad?
I love it. Like I take on that role like with pleasure. I want to obviously don't I'm not here to replace his dad. I'm just here to be another person to help guide him when his dad is not around. All right.
Is
When
his
he's in
father
his
open to having you as a person that's impactful to their child?
well, that's a whole nother topic. I don't
Oh,
know.
damn, he
I
just
don't know.
breathed. Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
It,
We don't
it
have to
ha-
go all the way there because maybe I
it's a
get it
lot. It's a
though.
lot right now. There's a lot going on with that
Yeah.
right now. I'm open to it. I'm always willing to, even when I'm the person who's like, look, I'm about to be spending time with your son. Like, let's
Man,
have a
let's
conversation.
let's have a beer. Let's sit down. Let's go play golf.
Let's
Let's
have a
talk turkey.
conversation, man.
But
Absolutely.
everybody's not ready at the same time we
I,
are.
I get that, man, and I get
Yeah.
that. So I'm gonna be patient with somebody, and I'm always gonna be respectful and mindful. But I'm also not like a pushover either. Like I'm gonna play my role as I'm not gonna like try not to be around his son when his son loves me and I love his son. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my job as a
That's
stepdad.
got to be. How do you speak to dads that are having a difficult time accepting that there is another male figure in your child's life? And if you're not a custodial father, that means your child lives with mom, which means your child lives with this man, and this man is seeing your child more than you are. That's got to be a gut punch,
It's it,
and do a lot to a male ego. I know
mm-hmm.
mama bears out here, they don't play games, but the male ego is, shit, look at the state of the world right now. You dudes have done a bang up job. So
Coming down
how
on
do
my
you,
brother.
y'all be on some bullshit again. So what did it do? Give some advice to the man that is struggling with knowing that his child is going to have this other dude that he just might look to as a father figure.
Get your shit
Well,
together.
I'm sure you've been in
Like
that position, right?
like
Like your kids.
like
Like,
my
what did you
like
have to do?
I had to I had to get over myself and realize that this shit ain't about me. Like, what's the alternative, right? Would you rather your kid's mom be in and out of relationships, have different dudes coming in and out of your kid's life? Would you rather be in an abusive relationship with an abusive man who's around your kids? Would you rather somebody beating on your kids, some dude you don't know? Or would you rather have a positive male influence when you're not around? What would you rather have for your kids? All right, get over yourself. Right? Why would I not want a positive influence around my kids? It's because of my ego.
Ego.
It's because of
Period.
my ego and my own insecurities. Take your ass to therapy, get over your own insecurities and your ego, and be
Yeah.
happy that there's a positive male around your kids, and do whatever you got to do to get more time in your kids' life. Right. So have sit down with yourself and figure out how you got in the situation you in right now. Stop blaming other people. Stop just because blaming other people don't do shit for you. All right. What kind of actionable steps are you going to take to get in a place where you want to be? All right.
Yeah.
Because, and like I said, like I want like my kids mom, her boyfriend, we cool. Like he coached my kid's soccer team. All right. So
Yes.
I want to know this dude. Like, if you spend time around my kids, I
Oh,
want to get to know you. Why would I
yeah.
want to have a negative relationship with you?
That makes it so easy for the kids too, because they don't have to consider their parents' feelings. That's a big responsibility for a little baby to have, considering your drama and your feelings and your ego before they show love to people.
It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. And you got to do the work. You got to do the inner work. And I think it's a lot of men that, like I said, that pride and ego get in the way. And they think I've also met a lot of men, all right, if we're on the topic of men and like
Yes.
being on some bullshit, right? A lot of times I've seen men get out of relationships where they were the one who cheated, or they were the one who, were did wrong
They
in a
messed up.
relationship, right? They
Yeah.
messed up. And then you want to get out of that relationship. And I think this is something that people don't talk about a lot when it comes to co-parenting, right? And how to make a co-parenting relationship work with two healthy people. You get out of a relationship after you were in the wrong or cheated or did something egregious, and you just want to get to co-parenting, right? You just like, all right, let's get right to co-parenting. That relationship is over.
Yeah,
That's the
I know I
past.
cheated on you and I had a baby on you. And you can hear the baby crying in the background, but let's just start co-parenting.
That's the past. Let's get over that. All
It
right.
was
Because that's in the
yesterday.
past. Oh yeah,
It
that
was
was
yesterday.
yesterday. We on to the next thing right now. Okay. Let's get over that shit. But you forget that you're dealing with a human being. Right. You
Yeah.
forget that there's a human being on the other side of this, and that still has pain and hurt and like anger, maybe some resentment, like all that towards you. Can you address that? And can you acknowledge that exists? Can you own your shit? Can you say like, yo, I know our relationship is over, but I know I fucked up, and I understand how this may have affected you. All right. And I want to own that, and I apologize. Whatever you like, can you own your shit? Because I think when certain moms see that, and it's not just about them, it says something about your character, right? And if this is a man that cannot take ownership and responsibility for his actions, how does that affect his fathering, right? As a father, right? Like,
How does it affect a woman's ability to just trust him?
right?
It's like, okay, cool, you lied to me, you broke my heart. All right, we still got this human being to raise. But I think that, that's why when you leave a job, you'll have an exit interview.
Mhm.
And I was like, let's just kind of talk about where we screwed up and what we did right and what we did wrong.
Yes.
So then, but I commend any human being that is co-parenting or is in a romantic relationship with somebody, and it ends bad or good, it ends, and they still are able to say, okay, yeah, here, because it's so easy to be like, well, you know what, you can't get your son because
Mhm.
I'm mad at you because you
Yeah.
have harmed me, or there's another woman that you've left me for. Okay, no, I don't want you guys. I don't want you over there with a new family picking up where you left off with me. Again,
Right.
I. That's ego.
Mhm.
I commend anybody though that can just be like, it's not about me. I'm gonna let the kids have this experience while I still mend my broken heart.
Yeah.
I, I agree with what you said though. It's a lot. Mending a broken heart, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I think we've all felt that feeling. And it's like a physical pain that you experience. But if you have the person that stuck the knife in your heart,
Mhm.
who is unapologetic, I shit, man, I
Yeah.
don't see how. That's hard.
It is hard. And it's not that I'm saying that this is something that has to take place. If you were hurt in a relationship, it is your responsibility to get yourself together, right? It's your
Yeah.
responsibility. But it might help the relationship moving forward if the other person acknowledged what the role they played in that, right? It might be a little helpful.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but you have to, as the individual who was hurt, you have to make sure that it does not become a mandatory part of your healing process.
Yes.
That you get that from them.
Mandatory. I need you to apologize. Every time we talk, I need you to tell me how great of a mother I am. I need you to tell me, just remind me that you're hurting and that
Right.
you're sad too. And you can't show me that you're happy and that you
Right.
have not moved on. And you need to acknowledge my pain. Like,
Right.
that's kind of what we get stuck in, that cycle of victimhood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about my favorite N word. Wait, no, my favorite N word is Naja. So my third favorite N word, narcissists. You address them quite a bit on your page and in your work. You address them. And I feel like the internet has just saturated. Oh my God, everybody's ex is a damn narcissist. We're all experts now.
Not
But
the case.
some of us do have the opportunity to co-parent and coexist with these types of people. And what is your most keen piece of advice for those of us that feel that we are co-parenting with a narcissistic human being? Most keen piece of advice. I mean, I just want your top thing.
There's a lot with this. So the most keen.
Just want one. Just give me one, Anthony. Just give me one. Give me two. Give me two then. And that's it.
Too. All right. The first thing I'll say is that you are not responsible for how this person behaves, right? And like, so that guilt that I see a lot of parents that experience guilt, right, from making the right decisions for their children when they're dealing with the narcissist. Make the right decisions. If you've done your due diligence and
Yeah.
you've consulted who you needed to consult, and you put all your personal shit aside, do what's right for your babies, all right, when you're dealing with a narcissist, and don't feel guilty about what you're doing. All right, like if you're doing something, and because they will, like you said, they will gaslight you. They'll make you feel
Woo!
like you are a horrible parent for trying
Trash.
to.
They will make you feel like
Right?
garbage.
If you've done your due diligence, just keep doing what you got to do for your kids' well-being.
Yeah.
And
Last one. Second one.
do your own work. I know we talked about it before, but do your own work. Get a coach, go to therapy, because a narcissist can dig you back. That you can feel like you climbed out of a hole, and a narcissist will make you go dig yourself right back in there. Right? Like they will make you feel they have the power, or you give them the power to make you feel horrible, to make you feel like you're a bad parent, like you're a bad mother or father, or like you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And you told yourself 100 times, I wasn't going to get back into an argument with this person again. But then you went back and you got into an argument.
You got sucked back
You got
into
sucked
it.
back in. I'm about to stop explaining myself. And then boom, next thing they made you feel like crap, you start explaining yourself again.
That same old pattern.
Same old pattern. Do your work so you do not go back into those patterns. All right, because you will feel like you've made so much progress, and then something can happen, you feel like you made no progress at all.
Good. And you got to forgive yourself. I just released an ebook. Was it last week? And it was geared toward people that are co-parenting in these high conflict situations. In my own work, I was starting to see how I'm not going to call them victims. I'm starting to see how some of my clients, they handled this conflict. Because you know how you just said they can gaslight you, then you're mad at yourself, and then you're second guessing yourself. I was like, dealing with people like that, it can really cause you to regress into that place of childhood trauma when you felt like you were not in control. And you really go back to that childlike brain and you feel completely helpless. And I was like, really dealing with a high conflict person will really kick up the dust off of some of that resolved and unresolved childhood trauma. So I was like, yo, we really got to do the work just to be like, listen, I am healed, but I'm coming across like a person that is abnormal. Yeah. It's not normal to be nasty and want to fight all the damn time. Like you got to be a bitter bastard, to just want to live in a state of chaos. You just got to be a foul person to do that.
Yeah. Stop trying to reason with them. Like, that's another one. If we could add one more. Stop trying to reason. Yes. Stop trying to reason with a narcissist. Like, they are not seeing things from a lens of reason and logic. Right? It doesn't.
They don't. They're
matter
not
what
capable.
You think makes sense.
Right. If you think, hey, picking up the child instead of me coming to the school, both of us being at the school, why don't you drop them off on Friday and I pick them up on Monday? No, that is not going to work. Well, why the hell not? Because I have to see my child. Yeah. And you're like, bruh, you can FaceTime.
Like, calm down. Like, really, because relax. You suggested it and I would not do.
Right. It's because you suggested it. It is kind of a great idea, but I didn't come up with it. So now I'm not doing it. And I don't care if it's easiest for the kid. I don't care. Like, that's just not what we're doing.
Nope.
Yeah. So then, as far as I want to kind of get back more into step parenting, and because you've kind of seen it on both sides. You've seen your children's mom have to accept and learn to accept a new feminine energy in her children's life being impactful. Because I imagine it's got to be hard to watch someone that you once cared for, who maybe you can't stand, or maybe you're kind of just tolerating right now. They are moved on and they're happy, and they're giving this new person the things that you want. Damn, if they just would have given me that, or been that, or done that, we could have worked out. I still could have kept my family together. My kid wouldn't be this so-called statistic. I would not look and feel like a public failure. So that has to create some feelings of, even for a very balanced, healthy woman, it has to create some feelings of disdain, resent, the opposite of joy.
Mhm.
So your children's mother has had to see you in that situation, and you've also had to watch her. She has a new baby. She
Mhm.
has a partner now. And so you as a man, you also had to be like, damn, she got a baby for this other dude. Like, and then you have it on both sides where your child, you are also dealing with somebody who is not as refined, whose ego is not as refined. And so they are having a bit of difficulty right now in this moment, not forever,
Mhm.
with
Hopefully. That's it.
accepting, hopefully, prayerfully. Oh, I just said a lot of things and I forgot the question. Y'all know I always forget the questions because I talk so damn long answering the question. So just I didn't ask you a question, but just start talking off of what I just said,
Start
Anthony. Because
speaking
I
to
don't.
that. So, so
Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned like, well, one of the things you mentioned was how, and I was going, I was going to say something about this earlier about like, I think people get out of relationships and they see like somebody potentially happy in another relationship and they're like,
Yes.
man, like now, like I got all the bad part and they get the good version of this person.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
and that's not always the case. It's not always the
What do
case
you
for one.
mean? Because it looks like it's the case. So what do you mean?
Well, shit, like just because it looked like it don't mean that's what it is. It may
Hey,
be, right. People grow and people evolve, and that may be the case. And one
like
of the
those
things,
BBLs, just because they look like it, I mean,
shit, it
let's
ain't
stay focused.
everything you see ain't real. So
Yeah. No
you
shade to
know,
BBLs though.
no,
No
not at
shade.
all. Like you don't know, but you
Hmm.
don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like if
Right.
um, so it's like one of the questions I like to ask my client, like tell my clients to ask themselves is like, whenever you thinking about why is something happening to me, because a lot of people ask themselves that question, like, why is this happening? Like, why is this happening to me?
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
it's like
Yes.
you really have to reframe that. That comes from that question comes from a place of victimhood, right? The why is this happening to me? You really have to reframe that and ask yourself, like, why did this have to happen? And like when you ask yourself, like, why did this have to happen? It comes from a place of like learning and perspective and gratitude,
Why did this have to happen?
right? Because life
Okay.
will keep giving us the same lesson until we learn it,
Man, I've been
right?
smacked a few times with the
Right.
same hand.
So if I lost my job, if I lose my job, right, and I gotta, one of the things that I have to look at in the situation is, like when I ask myself why this had to happen, I'm like, there's some people I know lost their job and they had to come in that process, they started their podcast. In that process, they started their business, or in that,
Yeah.
something happened in that process, right? And
Mm.
so if you ask just like, and if you would have been like, why is this happening to me? You would have stayed in that depressed state. You would have stayed in that
Yes.
state of victimhood. And when you
Yeah.
ask like,
Yeah.
yo, why did this have to happen? Well, now you start creating ideas.
Mm.
Now you start moving forward.
What
It's
is the
like,
opportunity that I
mhm,
gained from this bad thing that
what is
happened
the
to me?
opportunity, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to have any other kids, right? Um, she did, my ex.
Mm.
She has another child now.
She
She
got to grow her
with
family.
with a man that
Yes.
didn't have a kid and wanted kids. So,
Wow.
you know, why did this have to happen? Right? Because
That's a great perspective.
you don't you may not know the answer in the moment, but it at least gets you seeking for answers in a progressive mindset, right? In a
Mm.
mindset where that's moving forward, so you can start taking action in that direction. Right? It doesn't keep you in that space of victimhood. So
Wow.
she has I love her little baby boy, and I love that kid. Like every
Yes.
time I see him, I like he smiles and like I want to hold him.
Oh,
Like,
so you can be like Uncle Anthony or something to him. It's like, so are you guys at the point to where when your kids coming to and are they're with you that she sends their sibling to? Are you guys at that point yet? Is the
oh,
sibling old enough?
not
Okay.
yet. I'm
Okay.
like my fiance. She loves baby. She wants to babysit the baby because she missed that and she loves it.
Yeah, she's like, I love the baby phase. So one day, so then soon,
Maybe
maybe.
if they open to it, like we open to it. I don't mind. Like
Yes.
I definitely babysit if she got something going on. Like send the baby over here.
It's kind of cool because then your kids actually get to have their little sister or brother
Yeah,
there. And
absolutely.
it's like so much continuity between the households. I really love that last thing that you just said. Why did this have to happen? Anthony, if I could speak to you for like another hour, I completely would.
Mhm.
But I told you I was only hold you for an hour. So, but let's do this though. Let's do this. You and I are going to continue this conversation on my private forum, VIP Stepmom. So if you are a member of my stepmom space, then come on over there, because Anthony and I are going to continue the conversation and he'll be giving us some advice based on that. But for those of you that are stopping the journey here with us on this particular show, podcast hour, I thank you so much for being here. Anthony, can you tell everybody how they can find you, how they hire you as a coach and find you on social media and all that good stuff?
Find me on social media at the Coparenting Coach on TikTok. That's my biggest space right now. That's the space I'm in love with right now. Like,
well, you're
TikTok
doing it. You're doing your thing over there.
So yeah, the Coparenting Coach on TikTok, or go to the coparentingjourney.com, www.coparentingjourney.com, and you can book a consultation with me through there or through TikTok. Those are my major spaces. And if you want to find me on Instagram, which I just started a new one for my co-parenting, I'm AJ the Coparenting Coach.
Okay.
Instagram, which is a small account now, but I'm okay with that. It's not about I don't care about numbers.
Small but mighty. Numbers,
Yeah.
we get so convoluted.
Oh,
What's your
man.
numbers like? You're like, dude, come on.
I do not care about numbers. I care about
Yes.
helping people. I care about changing lives. I care about people being the best parents they can be and not ruining their kids' lives because they can't get over their own shit.
Get over our own shit, y'all. And then ask yourself, why did this have to happen? And on that note, everybody, thank you so much for listening to another episode of I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall. We are available everywhere your favorite podcasts are streamed, but I know this is your favorite podcast. I will see you Tuesday after next. Everywhere. I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.